I moved into the cul-de-sac when I was 10. It was one of those freshly constructed suburban developments that sprang up like weeds in the early 2000s, identical beige houses with plastic siding, little saplings staked into manicured lawns, and families that waved politely but never really talked. My parents loved it. Safe, they called it. The thing about cul-de-sacs is that they're supposed to feel cozy, closed off, peaceful. But from the very beginning, something about ours didn't sit right with me. For starters, there was the vacant lot at the very end. Every house in the development had been sold before we arrived, except that one. No signs, no construction equipment, nothing. Just an empty slab of concrete with a rectangle of overgrown grass where the foundation was supposed to be. Everyone avoided it, even the neighborhood dogs. They'd bark at it sometimes, fur bristled, refusing to step onto the lot. One night, maybe a month after we moved in, I had my first dream about the lot. In it, I was standing at the edge of the driveway, barefoot in my pajamas. It was pitch black. No stars, no moon, no porch lights. I could see only because the empty lot glowed faintly, like the grass itself was emitting light. There was a hole in the center, not dug but more like the earth had sunken naturally, perfectly square, about the size of a man's grave. I didn't hear anything in the dream, but I remember feeling watched. Not just from the lot, but from the windows of the surrounding houses. Every window. As if the entire neighborhood had turned to face me without moving. I woke up sweating. Told my parents about the dream, and they shrugged it off. "You just don't like change," my mom said. "Give it time." I tried. The dreams came back. Always the same scene, but small things would shift. The grass turned yellow. Then brown. The square hole got deeper. And eventually, I started to see shapes at the edge of it, shapes that weren't human but almost were. Crooked limbs, long fingers. Watching. I asked the neighbors if anyone else ever had weird dreams, and they looked at me like I was sick. One mom physically pulled her daughter away from me at the bus stop. Another neighbor stopped waving altogether. Then I started finding things in our yard. A dirty toy car I didn't recognize. A crumpled baseball card, edges burned. Once, a single black shoelace, tied in a perfect bow. My parents thought it was just other kids messing around. But there were no kids on our street. Not really. No one ever played outside. Everyone stayed inside after dark. Lights would turn off at the same time every night, like they were obeying a rule I didn't know. I broke the rule once. I stayed up after midnight and snuck out. I just needed to see the lot up close. I don't know why, it was like a compulsion. The kind that wraps around your ribs and squeezes until you move. The grass felt cold. Colder than the air. The hole was bigger now, easily 6 feet deep, though I swear I never saw anyone dig it. I leaned over the edge and looked in. Something looked back. Its eyes weren't glowing or dramatic. Just dark and reflective, like glass marbles. It didn't move, didn't blink. I scrambled backward, heart pounding, and ran home. But before I reached the door, I turned back one last time. And saw that every window on the cul-de-sac was lit. Every single one. I didn't sleep after that. Not really. I pretended to, under the covers, lights off, eyes wide. Every noise outside made me flinch. Every creak of the house felt like it was announcing someone, or something, coming closer. I told my parents about what I'd seen. The eyes. The hole. The windows. They just looked at each other in that way adults do when they think kids are being dramatic. My dad even chuckled. "Must have been a raccoon," he said. "Those things are always digging around." I wanted to scream. How do you explain that it wasn't a raccoon? That raccoons don't watch you like they're waiting? That weekend, the HOA sent out a newsletter. Buried halfway down, just above the recipes and dog poop complaints, was a tiny note. "Construction to resume on Lot 13 beginning next month. Please be aware of equipment and restricted access." Lot 13. That was the number on the rusted mailbox out front of the empty lot. I'd checked it a dozen times. but I hadn't realized until that moment that the number itself was wrong. All the other houses were numbered in even intervals, 10, 12, 14. There was no place for a 13. The night after the letter, I had the worst dream yet. I wasn't at the edge of the lot this time. I was inside the hole. Walls of packed dirt around me. No ladder, no rope. The sky above was pale gray, like paper soaked in ash water. Something was humming softly from the grass above. A tuneless melody, like a lullaby being played backward. I tried to climb out. The dirt was too loose. It crumbled under my nails. Then I felt it, movement beneath me. Not around me. Underneath. I looked down. The bottom of the pit had grown transparent. Or maybe my eyes adjusted. Either way, I could see beneath the earth, like glass, a crowd of faces pressed just below the soil, unmoving. Children's faces. Dozens. Their mouths were open like they were screaming, but no sound came out. Then I woke up. Only I wasn't in bed. I was outside. Standing barefoot on the cold, dewy grass. In the middle of the cul-de-sac. Directly in front of Lot 13. The hole was gone. The lot was perfectly flat. Newly seeded. Behind me, porch lights clicked on one by one, in a perfect clockwise motion. 13 houses. And each one had someone standing in the window. Not watching curiously. Watching me. I turned and ran. My parents didn't believe me when I told them I'd sleepwalked. They said I was lying. But they were different, too. Distant. I don't mean in the normal parents are busy kind of way. I mean off. Like they weren't quite synced with the rest of reality. They started going to bed earlier. Waking up earlier. Eating the exact same thing for breakfast. Like they were following a schedule that no one had shown me. A week later, the lot was sealed off with orange fencing. Construction had begun. Only no workers ever showed up. No machines. Just the sound of digging at night. Always from underneath. The final dream I had wasn't a dream. I know that sounds dramatic. But it was daylight. I was walking home from school. I took the long way around, just to avoid the cul-de-sac. When I finally turned down my street, I saw them, every resident, every single neighbor, standing in a circle around Lot 13. Silent. Heads tilted at the same angle. My parents were there too. Their shoes were muddy. I didn't go home that night. I walked straight past, down the street, to a friend's place. I never moved back. I checked the property records sometimes. Lot 13 is still under construction. Always has been. No house ever gets built. But the satellite images? They show shadows. A round formation. Like people standing in a circle. Watching the grass. We moved to that suburb because it was supposed to be quiet. My mom said the city was getting to her. Sirens, traffic, too many people. My dad just wanted a lawn. I didn't care. 13 is too old to make new friends and too young to be left out of the decision. Our new house backed up to another just like it, separated by a high wooden fence. It was a clean fence, fresh boards, no warping or rot. But it was tall. Too tall. I remember standing in our backyard for the first time and thinking, why would anyone build something that high unless they were hiding something? The weird part started about a week after we settled in. I was outside, sitting on the swing attached to a half-dead oak, when I heard it, a voice from the other side of the fence. It wasn't loud. Just soft enough to make me lean closer. "Don't turn around yet," it whispered. I froze. My first instinct was to glance over my shoulder. But I didn't. Something about the voice felt wrong. Not menacing. Just misplaced. "Stay still," it said again. "It's watching." I didn't move for what felt like 10 full minutes. Eventually, I heard a low click, like someone closing a latch, and the voice said, "Okay. You're fine now." When I finally looked, no one was there. Just the yard, the fence, and the faint sound of a sprinkler somewhere down the street. I told my parents. My mom laughed it off. My dad didn't even look up from his phone. Probably just a neighbor kid messing around. But the next time I was out there, I heard it again. Why'd you come back? The voice asked. It sounded closer now. Still on the other side of the fence, but louder. More distinct. It was a boy's voice, maybe a little older than me. I asked who he was. Someone like you, he said. Someone who didn't listen. I asked what he meant. You'll see. The voice came every other day. Always when I was alone. Never loud enough for my parents to hear through the windows. Sometimes it asked me questions, if I ever felt watched, if I had dreams I couldn't explain. Once, it asked if my room had cold spots. I lied and said no. Liar, it whispered. Then things started going missing. Small things at first. My toothbrush. A sock. A drawing I made in the margins of my homework. My parents thought I was being careless, but I wasn't. I kept everything where it belonged. I knew where I left it. But somehow, it was always gone the next day. I confronted the voice. Are you taking my stuff? There was a pause. Then a slow, creaking sound, wood bending, like someone pressing their weight against the fence. You left it out, the voice said. That means it's mine now. I started avoiding the backyard after that. But avoidance didn't help. That weekend, I woke up to find a small piece of paper on my pillow. Folded 4 times. Inside was my drawing, the one that had gone missing, with a new detail added. A crude figure standing behind me. My heart thudded so loud I could hear it in my ears. I rushed to the window, yanked up the blinds, and looked out at the backyard. It was empty. But then I noticed something on the grass near the fence. My missing toothbrush. Stabbed upright into the soil that I told my parents again. This time, my mom got annoyed. She thought I was making it up, either trying to get attention or acting out because I missed my old friends. She even accused me of sneaking outside at night to plant the toothbrush. I wanted to scream. That night, I stayed up with the lights off, watching the backyard from my bedroom window. I left the blinds cracked just enough to see the fence. Midnight passed. Then 1 o'clock. At 1:43 a.m., the motion light near the back porch clicked on. Nothing moved at first. Then I saw it. A figure standing right at the fence line, on our side. Not climbing, not walking, just standing. It wasn't the neighbor. It wasn't a kid. It was too thin, too tall, with arms that hung slightly too low. I couldn't see its face. It just stood there, facing the house. I didn't breathe. Didn't blink. It stood there for maybe a minute, then turned and walked, glided, back toward the fence. And then it was gone. I didn't hear the voice again for 3 days. Then, during dinner, I got up to grab something from the patio. Just a napkin. I stepped outside, grabbed it from the table, and turned to head back in when the voice hissed right in my ear. You let it in. I dropped the napkin and bolted inside. My mom yelled at me to stop slamming doors. My dad didn't look up from his food. I wanted to tell them, to make them understand, but what was I supposed to say? That I heard whispers and saw stick-limbed monsters wandering around after midnight? That night, the dreams started. Always the same one. I'm walking through our backyard, but the fence is gone. There's no grass. Just mud, stretching out into darkness. Something's buried beneath the surface. I can hear it. Scratching. Whispering my name. I'd wake up gasping, heart racing, and the dreams would dissolve like mist. But the fear stayed. Then the gifts started. First, a bundle of thread and hair tied to a safety pin, left neatly on my windowsill. Then a frog, dead but not rotting, mouth stitched closed with red thread. Then a Polaroid, an actual, old-fashioned photo. Of me. Sleeping. The next day, I climbed a stepladder and looked over the fence for the first time. The yard behind ours was wrong. Overgrown and dead all at once. The grass was yellow, but long. There were no toys, no lawn chairs, nothing to suggest anyone lived there. Just a single lawn gnome facing backward and a shed with a door hanging open, dark inside. I didn't see anyone. But I heard breathing. Slow. Wet. Like something with lungs that didn't quite work. I ducked down and vomited into the bushes. I stopped going outside altogether. 2 nights later, I woke to the sound of my closet door creaking open. It was pitch dark. I didn't move. I didn't make a sound. But I knew there was something inside. Then I heard the whisper, not from the backyard this time, but right beside my bed. "Don't turn around yet." I didn't. I stayed frozen for what felt like hours. Eventually, the voice returned. "Okay. You're fine now." In the morning, I found muddy footprints, leading from my closet to the window. And another drawing, this time not mine. A childlike sketch of our house. Every window was blacked out except mine. There was a single line beneath the image scrawled in smudged pencil. "Soon we'll all be on this side." We moved into the neighborhood on a Sunday. I remember because every single other family on the block brought something over. Cookies, casseroles, a hand-drawn map of local attractions, even a potted plant. Everyone was nice, too nice, the kind of warm politeness that feels rehearsed. The realtor had called the community tight-knit. I'd call it suffocating. My mom loved it. "Finally, a place where people say hello," she beamed. There was a tradition, apparently. On the first Thursday after move-in, you were invited on what they called the welcome walk. One of the older couples, the Rutledges, explained it to us with these wide, fixed smiles. "It's nothing much," Mrs. Rutledge said. "Just a little stroll through the neighborhood. Let you get the lay of the land. We all take it when we first move here," her husband added. "It's just part of how we do things." I didn't want to go, but my parents insisted. "It's just a walk," my dad said. "What's the harm?" The walk started just after sunset. 10 neighbors showed up outside our house, 5 couples, all older, all dressed in variations of the same thing: long sleeves, dark slacks, soft-soled shoes. They didn't speak much as we started. Just walked. At first, it was normal. Past the tidy lawns, the trimmed hedges. But soon, I started noticing things. The houses were all the same layout, sure, but I hadn't realized how same. Same porch furniture. Same wind chimes. Same rubber mats that read, "Live, laugh, love." Same single porch light, dim yellow, glowing like a sick eye. Then there were the trees. Every 4th house had a tree in the exact same spot in the yard. I don't mean close, I mean identical. Same height, same bend in the trunk, even the same knot in the bark. It was like the world had copy-pasted one yard onto another. We passed house after house. I lost count. I started whispering to my mom that maybe we should turn back, but she didn't respond. None of them did. Everyone just kept walking, feet moving in time, their shadows stretching long and thin in the amber glow of the street lamps. That's when I noticed we'd passed our house again. I was sure of it. The address. The potted plant from the Rutledges. Our car. We just walked a full circle. But no one stopped. We passed it again. I whispered louder. "We already went this way." One of the neighbors glanced at me, not turned their head, just the eyes. Like they were warning me. A minute later, someone in the group muttered, "You can't stop until it finishes." I looked at him. "Until what finishes?" He didn't answer. We walked a 3rd loop. Then a 4th. At the 5th pass, I tried to break from the group. I stepped onto the lawn and tried to run toward the door. My legs wouldn't move. I mean, they moved, but not toward the house. I was walking back to the group before I even realized it. My body felt cold. Disconnected. My mom turned to me, smiling, but it wasn't her usual smile. It was too wide, too forced. "Almost done, honey." The group made a left turn. One we hadn't taken before. Down a side street I hadn't seen in the daytime. The houses here weren't lived in. Windows boarded up. Paint peeling. But the lawns still trimmed. The wind chimes still there. Like the houses were empty but maintained. That's when I saw the other groups. More people, more walkers, all moving in synchronized silence. They passed us like ghosts. No one acknowledged anyone. Just endless loops. Then we turned again. And the streetlights went out. When my aunt died, she left us her house in the suburbs, one of those older ones with creaky floors and yellowing wallpaper. My parents were thrilled. We'd been renting for years, and suddenly we owned a 2-story house in a nice area. We moved in that June. The house had 4 bedrooms, though only 3 were furnished. The 4th, what we started calling the spare room, was totally empty except for a single floor vent and a crooked coat hook bolted into the far wall. No closet. No light fixture. Just a bare bulb on the ceiling, the kind you pull with a string. I avoided it. Something about that room made me feel flattened. Like my chest got heavier every time I stepped inside. My parents said we'd fix it up. Eventually. They always said that. But months passed and it stayed untouched. Then the rules appeared. One evening, a sheet of paper was sitting on our kitchen counter, neatly typed. House rules. Do not leave the spare room door open after 9 p.m. Do not knock on the door. Do not answer if someone knocks from inside. If the string light is on in the morning, inform your parents immediately. It wasn't a joke. I asked my mom if she printed it. She swore she didn't. My dad looked spooked, like it reminded him of something but he couldn't place it. He folded the rules up and stuffed them in a drawer. That night I had a dream. I was standing in the hallway, facing the spare room. The door was closed, but something inside was breathing, deep, wet, animal breathing. Not fast. Just constant. I reached for the doorknob and heard a click, not from the door, but behind me. When I turned around, the hallway had gotten longer. Endless. No windows. No exit. Just walls that seemed to pulse slightly, like they were breathing too. I woke up sweating. A week later, my mom said she heard scratching from the spare room. She thought it was a raccoon stuck in the vent. My dad checked it out, found nothing. But the next night, the door was cracked open. Just an inch. We were all sure we'd left it closed. That's when I remembered Rule 1. From then on, I made sure it was shut tight every night. I even started taping a line of thread across the frame so I'd know if it moved. And sometimes it did. I'd wake up to the thread snapped clean in the middle. Then came the knocking. It always happened around 3 a.m. Slow and deliberate 3 knocks. Not loud. Just enough to wake me up. The first time, I froze in bed. The second time, I grabbed my phone and recorded it. When I played it back, all I could hear was white noise. But in the middle, there was a whisper. One word. Down. I showed my parents. My dad got pale. He didn't say anything, just opened the drawer and pulled out the house rules again. I think we need to listen, he said. That night, he pushed an old dresser in front of the spare room door. Nailed it in place. Told me not to worry. The next morning, the dresser was 5 feet down the hall. Sitting perfectly upright. And the string light inside the room? It was on. We didn't sleep that night. My dad sat in the hallway with a hammer in his lap, watching the spare room door. My mom stayed downstairs pretending to fold laundry, but I could tell she was just listening, waiting for something. I watched the clock until it hit 3 a.m. Nothing happened. No knocking. No light. Just silence. The next morning, my dad tore the door off its hinges. He said, "If there's no door, there's no rules." He looked shaky. Desperate. Like he was trying to outsmart something that didn't play by logic. We left the room exposed all day. Nothing changed. That night, he stayed up again. This time with a baseball bat. Around 2:45, I heard movement, soft, dragging footsteps across the upstairs carpet. I crept out of bed and peeked into the hallway. My dad was gone. The bat was lying sideways on the floor, spinning slightly, like it had just been dropped. The spare room was still empty. But the light was on. I stepped inside. Just once. Just long enough to see that the air inside was different, thick, static charged. I swear the walls were slightly closer than they had been before. And the floor vent was making a low humming noise, like distant machinery. I backed out fast. My dad came back down an hour later. He didn't remember where he'd gone. Just said he felt dizzy and went to lie down. But something was wrong with him after that. He didn't talk much. Ate very little. He started waking up with dirt under his fingernails. My mom tried to pretend everything was okay, but she couldn't ignore what came next. One afternoon, while vacuuming the hallway, she found a second set of footprints outside the spare room. Small. Barefoot. Leading in both directions, in and out. The dust was thick, untouched everywhere else. She printed the house rules again and taped them to the fridge. The knocking came back that night. 3 knocks. Then silence. Then, a new sound, metal on metal. Like a coat hook being scraped in slow, deliberate circles. I begged my mom to leave the house with me. A hotel, anything. But she refused. "Your aunt lived here for 30 years," she said. She managed. That's when I realized something. My aunt had never used the spare room. When we inherited the house, it was the only room that had been sealed shut, padlocked from the outside. My parents thought she was just eccentric. She wasn't. She was trying to contain it. The next night, I waited until my parents were asleep. I stood outside the room with a flashlight, heart pounding. The air smelled like rust and wet earth. I stepped inside. The light bulb flickered once, then steadied. I aimed my flashlight at the coat hook. There was something hanging from it. A bundle of string and hair, twisted like a charm. It spun slowly in the air, like it was swaying from breath. Beneath it, etched into the wall with something sharp, was a phrase. "You broke the rules." The door slammed shut behind me. I screamed, but no one heard. I pounded on the door, but it wouldn't budge. The light flickered faster. I heard breathing from the vent, rasping, layered, like a dozen mouths exhaling at once. Then, something clicked. Not from inside the room. From inside my head. A memory, flashing uninvited. Me, as a toddler. Crying. My aunt holding me. Whispering in my ear. "You don't ever go in the 4th room, okay? Not even if it calls you." I must have nodded. But I forgot. The light went out. I woke up in my bed. Morning. The spare room was sealed again, door replaced, painted over. Like it had never been removed. The rules were gone from the fridge. My parents won't talk about it. But last week, I found a new rule carved into the underside of my desk drawer. If you survive the first time, do not go back. We moved into the house in late spring. Fresh paint, trimmed hedges, even a little birdhouse by the porch, my mom called it. Storybook suburban. I hated it on sight. Too clean. Too perfect. Like a movie set where the extras had forgotten their lines. At first, it was quiet. Unnaturally so. The kind of quiet that made you second-guess whether you were the only one making noise. The neighbors were pleasant, but distant. They waved, smiled, and retreated behind their doors. No one lingered. No kids played outside. Not even dogs barked at night. The weirdness started with the mailbox. We'd been there almost a month before I realized it. We never got any mail. Not a flyer, not a water bill, not even junk ads. Every house on our street had the same matte black mailbox mounted beside the curb, same model, same tilt, same little flag. But ours always looked different in some small, invisible way. Like a copy that had been traced one too many times. I asked my mom about it. She said we had everything sent online now. Eco-friendly. She smiled. Still, I started checking it every afternoon after school, just to be sure. Pull open the door, stare into the empty dark. Metal cold against my fingers. Nothing. Always nothing. Until one day it wasn't. It was a Tuesday, right after it had rained. The pavement was still steaming. I opened the mailbox like I always did, half out of habit, half out of boredom, and there it was, a red envelope. No name. No stamp. Just a thick red paper square resting perfectly at the bottom. I turned it over. Someone had written our last name on the front in jagged black ink. The letters trembled, like they'd been scrawled in a hurry or by someone with bad hands. I showed it to my mom. Her face went blank for a second, just one flicker, barely noticeable, and then she snapped into her usual, breezy tone. "Oh, it's probably a neighborhood thing. Maybe an invitation." She tossed it into the kitchen drawer without opening it. The next morning, the flag was up again. Another envelope. Same red paper. This time, there was a date written on the front, June 11th. It was 10 days away. I showed my dad. He opened it, carefully, like he expected something to jump out. Inside was a photo. Grainy. Black and white. A nighttime shot of a cul-de-sac. Our cul-de-sac. We were in it, my mom, my dad, and me. Standing outside our house, all facing the street, backs to the camera. None of us remembered it being taken. Weird prank. My dad muttered, but I saw him check the locks 3 times before bed that night. The next morning, the mailbox was different. It leaned slightly forward now, like someone had tried to pull it out of the ground. The red flag was still up. My dad said maybe a delivery truck backed into it, but there were no tire marks. No scratches. Just a subtle bend, like a bow. That's when I started dreaming about it. In the dreams, I'd wake up in the middle of the night, barefoot, standing at the edge of our driveway. The whole street would be empty. No wind. No moon. Just me and the mailbox, sitting under the glow of a single flickering streetlight. Its red flag would be raised. When I opened the box, there would always be something new inside. A tooth. A folded photograph of my face. Once, a melted watch still ticking backwards. I'd wake up drenched in sweat. Then one day, the box was locked. Not padlocked, just sealed. The little latch had been jammed shut. My dad had to force it open with a screwdriver. Inside was another envelope. But this one wasn't paper. It was made of some thin, waxy cloth. Wet. Heavy. No writing on the outside. Inside, wrapped in crumpled black tissue, was a photograph of my bedroom taken from above. I was in bed asleep. The photo had a timestamp. It was from last night. We didn't touch the mailbox the next day. It stood there, flag up, like it was waiting. Like it knew we were watching. My mom refused to speak about the photo. She just stared at it, her jaw clenched so tight I thought her teeth would snap. My dad wanted to call the police. She said, "And tell them what? Someone mailed us our nightmares?" We taped a sheet over my bedroom window that night. My dad piled a chair against my door. I didn't sleep. I listened. For creaks, footsteps, clicks from the hallway, anything. But the house stayed still. Until just before dawn, when the mailbox shrieked. That's the only word I have for the sound. It came from outside, high-pitched and metallic, like steel being bent inside out. It lasted all of 3 seconds, then silence. But something had changed. The red flag was down. We should have left then. But we didn't. We couldn't. My parents acted normal the next morning, too normal. Pancakes, polite small talk like they were playing a script. But they both jumped when I mentioned the sound. When I looked outside, the mailbox was gone. Not removed, missing. Post, box, flag. Vanished. Just a patch of disturbed earth and an imprint in the grass like something had been pulled down. That should have been the end of it. But later that afternoon, something thudded against the front door. We all jumped. My dad opened it with a kitchen knife in his hand. Sitting on the porch was the mailbox. It was upright. Clean. The red flag raised high. No footprints around it. No note. Just there. We stood and stared at it for what felt like forever. No one moved. Then my dad reached for it. I told him not to. He ignored me. Inside was a small black cassette tape. No label. No case. Just old, dusty plastic, like it had been dug out of the ground after decades. We didn't own a cassette player, but my dad found one at a thrift shop that same day. He didn't tell us he was going, just came back with it and plugged it in at the kitchen table. When he hit play, nothing happened for a moment. Then came the sound. It was static, then voices. Not speaking, mouthing. You could hear breath moving in and out. Whisper shapes. Then a soft knock knock knock. 3 precise raps. And then, very faintly, my voice. I said, "Let me in." The tape clicked off. My mom covered her mouth. I asked if they recognized it, if it was edited, stolen, a prank. They just shook their heads. That night the power went out. All at once. No storm. No warning. We lit candles and tried to laugh it off. But around midnight the air shifted. Grew dense. Heavy. There was a sound like wood stretching, then something scraping against the walls. From inside. We moved as one, flashlights in hand, heading upstairs. I swear the hallway was longer than usual. Like the house had stretched. I counted the steps, 13 to the top instead of 12. And outside my bedroom door, the mailbox was waiting. Not a hallucination. Not a dream. It was physically there, wooden posts rooted through the carpet, metal box glowing faintly in the dark. The flag up. It opened by itself. Inside was a single piece of paper. Folded once, clean edges. My dad opened it. There were no words. Just a charcoal drawing of our house, rooftops, porch, windows. Only the front door was missing. In its place, a perfect black square. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Then came the knocking. But not from the door. From underneath the floorboards. 3 times. Slow. Measured. That was 3 nights ago. The mailbox is still inside the house. Every morning it's somewhere new, kitchen, hallway, once at the foot of my bed. The red flag is always raised. We tried burning it. It reappeared. We tried burying it. It came back cleaner. Today, the red envelope returned. The ink bled across the front this time. It says, "Final notice." I haven't opened it yet. I think this is how it ends. Not with a scream, not with blood, but with a delivery. And when I go, when it's my turn, I wonder who the mailbox will visit next.